I want to hear him say, I love you, Mom.
July 27th, 2021, the day then 5-year-old Michael Vaughn disappeared from his Fruitland home.
We strongly believe, based on evidence, that Michael was abducted and is deceased.
Michael Joseph Vaughn was born on June 24, 2016 in Fruitland, Idaho, to his mother, Brandy Neal, and his father, Tyler Vaughn. He also had a younger sister and a few older half-siblings from one of his parents' previous relationships. Michael was affectionately called Monkey by his family, and he was described as being a friendly, curious boy who loved camping, monster trucks, and playing in the mud. He was also very outgoing and frequently asked to play with the other children in his neighborhood. 5-year-old Michael lived with his mother, father, and his 18-month-old sister at their home on Southwest 9th Street in Fruitland. On the evening of July 27, 2021, his mother Brandy went into work, and Tyler stayed home to watch Michael and his little sister. During this time, Michael began playing video games on his Nintendo. Around 6:40 p.m., his father Tyler went into the other room to change his little sister's diaper and order some pizza. He was only gone for about 15 to 20 minutes, but when he came back, Michael was nowhere to be seen. Tyler was in a panic, and he called up Brandy, who immediately rushed home from work. The father also called police at 7:21 p.m. and reported Michael as missing. He told authorities that his son had last been seen wearing a Minecraft t-shirt and blue boxer-style shorts with flip-flops. When Brandy arrived home, there were already police officers and concerned neighbors surrounding the area. They were all searching for Michael. An official missing persons alert was sent out at 8 p.m. that night. Now, neighbors reported seeing the 5-year-old between 6:15 and 6:30 p.m. He was outside of his home at a nearby residence. Apparently, Michael had been knocking on some of the neighbors' doors, asking if their children could come out and play. But he'd been turned down, and the neighbors told the young boy that he should return home because it was getting late. This would be the last confirmed sighting of the 5-year-old. Police, search parties, dogs, and drones searched the area for Michael. Canines were able to track the little boy's scent, and it led them to the end of the street, away from the nearby farm field, to the right of their house, then stopped abruptly. In the end, no trace of the little boy would be found.
He would have come out of the garage. The front door is pretty hard to get out of, and you can hear that opening.
She says her son was looking for older neighborhood kids to play with.
He went to a neighbor's house. He went to another neighbor's house and another neighbor's house.
Typical, she says, for a summer night here, but with Brandy at work and her husband inside checking on the toddler and ordering dinner, neither parent knew Michael took off.
After that, there wouldn't be any updates in Michael's case for months.
The search for Michael will not stop until he's found, and the search remains very active. As I've said to the public, the effort may look a little bit different from time to time, but those of us in law enforcement leading the search and the investigation, Michael's on the top of our mind. He's our top priority, and finding him is an intense daily part of our lives.
Then, in October of 2021, authorities released some photos of a man who was seen walking through the splash pad area of Crestview Park around the time that Michael disappeared. They said they were looking to identify and speak with this man. He was described as being white, in his late 20s to early 30s, wearing black shorts, a white t-shirt with cut-off sleeves, a dark hat, and dark sneakers. While this man was said not to be a suspect or a person of interest, police wanted to talk to him to determine his whereabouts and see if he had any more information that would help their investigation. This man wouldn't end up being publicly identified until years later. Then in November of 2022, police announced that they had received a tip that led them to make an arrest in Michael's case. A woman named Sarah Wondra, who lived a few blocks away from the family, was charged with failure to report a death. At this time, Sarah was out on bail on a firearms charge related to a robbery. A search warrant was also issued for 35-year-old Sarah Wondra's home, located on Red Wing Street, that she shared with her husband, Stacy Wondra. Police then began digging up their backyard, looking for Michael, but they wouldn't find anything. Cadaver dogs did, however, alert officers to the scent of human remains. Police said, "We completed the excavation to a depth of 4 feet of the entire backyard and removed over 250 yards of dirt. Prior to backfilling the yard, the dirt was meticulously sifted for any potential human remains. We did not find Michael's remains. Investigators strongly believe that based on the evidence, Michael was abducted and is deceased, and that his remains were buried and later moved from the property." At the time of Sarah Wandra's arrest, she told police, "Oh, wow. The Most High God just told me that Stacy was the one who killed him and buried him in the neighbor's backyard." When she was later asked to show police where the boy's body was buried, she pointed to a spot near her front door, then said that her husband Stacy buried him in the backyard near the shed. So that's 3 different places she said he was buried at this point. Sarah was arraigned a few days after her arrest, and when the judge informed her of her rights, she replied, "I don't have any reason to be silent because I didn't do anything wrong." At the time, Sarah's husband Stacy was behind bars as well, on unrelated charges. Sarah continued to insist that she had nothing to do with Michael's death or disappearance. It was her husband who had buried the 5-year-old in the backyard near their shed. But Sarah claimed that her husband was not the one who had hurt Michael. Instead, she insisted that a man named Adrian Lucien, who previously lived with the couple, had been the one that had done it and was scared to tell anybody. Regardless of these claims, neither Stacy nor Adrian would be placed under arrest, like Sarah was. Not that her arrest really mattered either, because the charges against her would be dropped a few months later in April of 2023 due to insufficient evidence. Sarah, however, is currently in jail and will be there till at least 2026. She's being held on charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and concealment of evidence, but these are unrelated to Michael's disappearance. Following Sarah's charges being dropped in relation to Michael's case, there was no new news for over a year. Michael's mother, Brandy, who was completely distraught by the disappearance of her son, was said to have slept on the couch every single night, just waiting for the day that he would come walking through the door. Unfortunately, that never happened.
I don't even think hell is the right word. Stay back from the stove.
It doesn't feel hot.
She describes her son as pure excitement and joy, seen here in a home video learning to bake.
Stay back.
Real homemade cookies. We made real homemade cookies.
Stacy Wandra would go on to do several YouTube interviews, and he would say that he had seen a young boy playing outside by himself on the day that Michael disappeared, but he insisted that he had nothing to do with the little boy vanishing. He'd previously told the media a different story, however.
I just know that I wasn't around for any of it. Like I said, I've never even heard of this kid. I've never seen this kid. Never knew anything about him.
Then in January of 2025, a new interrogation video of Stacy emerged online. Apparently, Michael's mother, Brandy, had obtained it after she filed a public records release with police. The video shows Stacy talking on a FaceTime call to officers. He's telling them where they can find Michael's remains during the excavation of his backyard in November of 2022. Stacy said that he, Adrian, and another man who lived in the home named Brandon Shirtliff had witnessed his wife Sarah burying Michael's body there. Stacy also told officers that the boy's mouth would be covered with duct tape.
I'm hoping that you will help me a little bit more. I'm over here, I'm in your home.
Okay.
So I need a little bit more direction about where Michael is at.
Go out the back door, or
Okay?
I can't. Can you turn the camera around so I can show you?
We're gonna flip it around right now, stand by.
Right here.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm going out the kitchen door.
Alright, that's some equipment.
That is some equipment. Okay, where do I need to go?
Okay, face to the right. Like right where the dirt piles are.
Right where the dirt piles are. About how far off of the fence? Go ahead. Okay, walk over there and you point us to where it needs to be.
Okay.
No, keep going out a little further.
Keep going out a little further. You're gonna have to climb that mound.
It's like right under that mound area.
It's right under the mound, about where at compared to the trees?
A little like right to the right of the trees area.
To the right of the trees?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little
So,
bit. Where the
Okay, where at now?
now he's off the dirt mound. It's like underneath the dirt mound area.
And about where he's standing?
Yeah, a little bit less, like closer to the house.
Come closer to the house?
Yeah.
And what is he wrapped in?
He should be, it should be a garbage bag.
Okay, what color is the garbage bag?
It would either be white or black. We only had 2 colors. Okay.
Do you have any other suggestions for us, Stacy?
Like I said, that's where he was buried.
Okay.
That's the last place I had known. Again, haven't been home for quite a while, and a lot of shit, you know what I mean? So the only other place I would say, if he's not in that backyard, is go to Cuna, to Brandon's house, and check in the backyard by the tree area.
Okay, well, we're gonna finish here first, and then we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Okay.
Is the duct tape still gonna be over his mouth?
It should be.
Okay.
I didn't watch take them off.
Okay.
So you should have everything intact as it was.
After this video was released, it would still be another 9 months until there was another update in Michael's case. Then on October 31st, 2025, it was announced that 33-year-old Stacy Wondra, who was already in police custody on other unrelated charges, was now also being charged with first-degree murder, second-degree kidnapping, and destruction of evidence.
Michael's mom sent us a statement Friday morning saying their family is filled with mixed emotions. She says in part, quote, "All we have wanted is for Michael to come home. Knowing that charges are coming forth to these monsters, we pray that they will finally tell us where Michael is. Michael deserves to be home with his family. We are here. We want justice. Michael will get his justice. We want Michael home, and we're never going to stop until we have Michael home."
This was all the information that there was on Michael's case up until recently when Stacy's arrest affidavit was made public. It revealed many new details, including that on August 2nd, 2021, a few days after Michael disappeared, canines had been given the scent from the little boy's sneakers, and they searched multiple neighborhoods near Michael's home. Out of the 300 different houses that they sniffed out, they were only interested in one, the Wondras house. A neighbor told police that he had seen Michael riding a pink big wheel tricycle outside of Stacy and Sarah's house on the day he disappeared. Another woman who lived nearby said she had seen the same tricycle in the Wondras' garage in spring of 2021. Then yet another neighbor told authorities that he had seen this same tricycle discarded near some bluffs that were close by to the Wondras' home. On the day that Michael vanished, at 3:23 p.m., police said that a surveillance camera spotted Stacy driving his white Lexus and pulling into a parking spot at the community splash pad. He was seen exiting the driver's side door, then walking over to the passenger side of the car. He then began testing the exterior door handle to see if it was locked. After that, Stacy walked back to the driver's side and left. The individual who was caught on video surveillance that police had previously asked for help in identifying was also revealed in this affidavit. This person was the Wondras' friend, Brandon Shirtliff. The video showed him walking in the area of Three Rivers Way at 5:08 p.m. on July 27th. He was then seen walking in the area of the splash pad at 5:18 p.m., and again seen walking through a wooded area that led to the Wondras' home 10 minutes later. When Brandon was asked by investigators what he had been doing, he said that he was out looking for the little boy. But this was hours prior to Michael going missing. Back in August of 2021, when authorities had gone to the Wondras' home to speak with them, suspiciously they found Adrian Lucien hiding in a closet when they got there. Adrian then refused to commit to a statement and wouldn't give authorities his social security number. When Stacy and Sarah were interviewed the same day, they claimed to have slept until noon. And they denied being home around 6:30 p.m. when Michael went missing. But cell phone data from Sarah, Stacy, Brandon, and Adrian showed that they had all been in the area that night. After Michael disappeared, police noticed a big change in Sarah's social media activity too. She began posting a lot more frequently on her TikTok and was now posting about Jesus, God, and sometimes even reading the Bible. In one video, Sarah admitted to breaking all 10 commandments, one of which, as you know, is thou shalt not kill. In another video, you can see 5-year-old Michael's missing person flyer in the background. She additionally began standing along the highway near a Love's gas station, holding a sign that read, "Repent of your sins," and that the end of time was near. Police said that Sarah had been seen driving a GMC truck out of the neighborhood around the time that Michael disappeared, and she had made inconsistent statements as to why. Shortly after the boy went missing, Sarah and Stacy additionally sold their phones, lost or sold their vehicles, and got rid of much of their furniture. On top of that, the couple began searching online for rental houses in other states and financial assistance in other areas. When Sarah was interviewed by detectives again in October of 2022, she became emotional and began telling them that God was going to help her find the little boy. She also said that God had forgiven Hitler for his sins, so therefore God had redeemed her of her sins. About a month after that, in November of 2022, Stacy asked to speak to detectives and said that he wanted to be given a deal. It was at that time that he finally admitted that Michael had been inside his house on the night he disappeared. Stacy also confessed that the tricycle that the little boy had been seen riding had previously been inside his garage. Then Stacy told police that he and his friends had kidnapped Michael with the intent to sell him. He claimed that it was Adrian's idea to sell the little boy, and in return, he and his wife Sarah would get $10,000. When Stacy had first seen Michael that day in July of 2021, he said that his wife Sarah was carrying him into the house. According to Stacy, Sarah was frantic and trying to figure out what to do with Michael because the little boy was crying. So Stacy suggested that they put him inside a duffel bag. Sarah additionally duct taped the little boy's mouth to keep him quiet. While Stacy was describing to police how exactly Michael had been stuffed inside the duffel bag in his living room, he suddenly began violently vomiting. And when asked why, he said it was because of the stress of talking about Michael. Now, as I said earlier, Sarah had been seen driving a GMC truck out of the neighborhood around the time the little boy disappeared. She had also been seen stopping the truck at Southwest 8th and South Arizona. She claimed she had to stop to put an address into her GPS because she was driving to Brandon's mother's house in Kuna so she could tow Brandon's car back to their house. However, it would be revealed that there was 2 other reasons why she had actually stopped the vehicle. The first was so that Stacy could put some power steering fluid into the truck. And the second was so that they could check on Michael, who was in the duffel bag, and see if he was still alive. At that point, Stacy said that he could hear the little boy making a dull scream. After that, they drove to Brandon's mother's house. Once there, Brandon took the bag with Michael in it out of the truck. And according to Stacy, there was no longer any noises coming from it. Brandon then put the bag in his mother's spare room, and they only went back for it the following day. Once they brought Michael's body back to the Wanderers house, Adrian and Sarah dug a hole in the backyard and placed him inside. Sarah's mother, Kay Ramsey, said that the couple's dogs had been digging holes in the backyard after that. And one of them had dug up the ear of a green stuffed animal, which she had thrown away. Stacy would say during the interview that Michael had a stuffed animal, a monkey or a dinosaur. He believed it was a green monkey, but would later tell police that the toy he was referring to was actually a dog toy that he and Sarah had given to Michael while he was sitting on their living room couch to keep him quiet. Following his interview with law enforcement, Stacy would call up his mother, and he told her that Sarah had accidentally killed Michael after she put duct tape over his mouth and he suffocated. Stacy also wrote a letter to Michael's parents apologizing for what had happened. After that, he tried to take his own life, but was rescued by jail staff. So even though all 4 adults, Stacy, Sarah, Brandon, and Adrian, were named as suspects in this affidavit, only Stacy has been charged, though all of them have recently been in trouble with the law.
Idaho News 6 learned Brandon Shurtleff is currently in the Kane County Jail. A county spokesperson says he's serving 30 days for failing to follow terms of his previous release on an unrelated charge. He's expected to be released in early December. Lucien was arrested and released in Indiana in October for a traffic-related misdemeanor. We've called to clarify, and they told us they don't know where he is. Sarah Wandra is currently serving time in the Idaho State Prison System for unrelated charges. She's eligible for parole in early 2026.
Michael's mother, Brandy, went on Hidden True Crimes YouTube channel back in January of 2025, and she announced that she's currently battling a terminal illness. But she made a promise to her son, Michael, that she will find him and bring justice to his case. However, she also expressed her fear that she may pass away before being able to do so. She then asked people for help in spreading the word about Michael's case, which had gone largely ignored for years. Brandy also spoke to a reporter after Stacy's arrest affidavit was released, and she shared how it made her feel.
You're pure evil. You have no heart. You have no soul.
Brandy Neal, the mother of missing Fruitland boy Michael Vaughn, was in the courtroom Monday to face Stacy Wandra. Wandra is accused of murdering her then 5-year-old son in 2021. I asked Neal why she went to the courthouse on Monday.
So hopefully he could see my face. And I need to be at every one of the arraignments and the hearings. I need to know where my son is and what they did to him in the entirety.
Would you think you'll ever get the answer as to why?
No, because there is no answer to why. Why would somebody hurt an innocent little boy? What answer could you give? What answer could you possibly give? How scared was he? Did he ask for me? Did he ask for Tyler? I don't know. I don't know if I want to know that, but I think I deserve that.
Neal feels Monkey's presence with her every day and says Michael's younger sister talks to him all the time. Neal says her daughter learned at a very young age about the bad guys.
I think her last comment on the bad guys is the police can catch them and then she can kick them in the face. And I was like, okay.
Well, thank you for listening to Michael's story today. I honestly can't believe that it's taken this long to prosecute anyone in his case, but I'm glad it's finally happened. Hopefully more of those degenerates who were involved with Michael's kidnapping and murder are charged soon too. This is such a horrible story, and my heart aches for Michael's family, especially with the release of this new information about how he was killed. How do you feel about this case?
Started this case literally 5 months behind the ball. I mean, we were notified that there could have been a crime 5 months later, and so we're having to go back and try to find evidence that may not even be there anymore, and that's been one of the difficult parts.
Noel Rodriguez Alvarez was born on February 2, 2017, to his mother, Cindy Rodriguez Singh, and his father, Mariano Alvarez Contreras. The little boy had been born prematurely at just 23 weeks, which left him with some developmental disabilities in his speech and behavior. This included speech delays and isotropia in both eyes, meaning that they were turned inwards. He additionally had chronic lung disease, which he needed to use oxygen for. Noel lived with his mother, Cindy, her boyfriend, Archdeep Singh, and his 6 siblings, who ranged in age from 5 months to 11 years old. However, Cindy actually had a total of 10 children altogether, but the oldest 3 were being raised by her parents. So Noel and his family lived in the 3700 block of Wisteria Drive in Fort Worth, Texas. And while there was a house there, they actually stayed inside of a shed located at the back of the property. The owner of the home, 71-year-old Charles Parson, wasn't related to them, but he had known Cindy for close to 10 years. Apparently, one day, he had found her and some of her children sleeping in her car outside of his house. So he had then invited them to come live with him, which seems a little odd, don't you think? Then when Cindy got married in 2021 and her family continued to grow bigger, Charles agreed to let them build a shed at the back of the property for them to all live in. However, while the structure had electricity, it didn't have running water, so Charles would leave the back door of his house open so they could come in and use things such as the shower, toilet, and sinks. Some of the family members also still lived inside of Charles's home, in his 2 spare bedrooms, because there wasn't enough room for all of them outside in the shed. And while Cindy would sometimes help pay for groceries, she never paid a single dime in rent. In 2020, Noel and 2 of his siblings had been removed from their mother's custody after she had a drunk driving incident where she had hit a pole and some of the kids were inside the vehicle. The children had then been placed into foster care. Noel and his siblings' new foster mom was named Patricia Paris, and she had experience in looking after children with special needs. According to Patricia, Noel was a great kid. He was playful and happy and loved interacting with other children. He also loved hugs and Happy Meals, and he had a very special place in her heart. The little boy thrived in her care, and the foster mother said, "Everything a kid with special needs is told he can't do, he mastered that."
He was a sweet little boy. That was our boy. And he loved to give hugs, and, you know, he was just a sweet little boy.
But then in 2021, Cindy regained custody of her children. And while Patricia was able to keep in contact with them for some time afterwards, by fall of 2022, Cindy stopped answering her phone calls. This was even though Patricia and her husband had told Cindy that if she ever felt overwhelmed and needed any help with Noel and his siblings, she could call them at any point and they would come to get them. But that wouldn't end up happening because on March 20th, 2023, police were contacted by Texas Child Protective Investigations. They said that multiple family members of Noel's had not seen the little boy since October of 2022. And the last time they did see him, which was in the hospital at the birth of his twin siblings, he looked rather unhealthy and malnourished. It was also discovered that in October, Noel had missed one of his scheduled Department of Health and medical appointments. In fact, he'd missed several appointments by this time, and he hadn't seen a doctor since July. But due to his medical issues, Noel needed to be seen on a regular basis. Soon after, Cindy received a letter from the Department of Health and Medical threatening to cancel her benefits if Noel wasn't brought in. So she would ask a friend if her son could pose as Noel, claiming that the little boy had COVID at the time, which is why she wasn't able to bring him in. Authorities additionally discovered that Noel, who was 6 at the time, had never been enrolled in school. So due to all this concerning information, Child Protective Services contacted police and requested that a welfare check be done at the home. When officers arrived at the residence, they were met by 37-year-old Cindy, and she claimed that her son was actually in Mexico with his biological father. However, once Noel's father, Mariano, was contacted by authorities, he told them that he had never even met his son, because before he was born, he had been deported back to Mexico from the United States. Records from Homeland Security would support his statements, and he was therefore cleared as a suspect. Now that police had confirmed that Noel was not with his father, they tried to reach back out to his mother, Cindy, but she began avoiding them. So investigators called up the school where Noel's siblings attended to check in on them, and they found that they had been absent that day, and that Cindy had contacted the school about unenrolling them. This greatly concerned authorities, so due to this and the fact that Cindy had an extensive criminal history, a warrant was issued for her arrest. An Amber Alert for Noel was also issued on March 25, 2023. It asked the public to be on the lookout for him, his mother, and a 2012 Chevrolet Silverado. When detectives began speaking with Noel's other family members, his uncle, Cindy's brother, said that he had not seen his nephew in about a year. The last time he had seen him was at a family gathering, and during that time, Cindy had been withholding food and water from the boy. According to her, it was because Noel would frequently pee himself, and she didn't want to have to keep changing him, because, God forbid she be a mother. When one relative ended up giving Noel some water and Cindy found out, she began screaming at him, and hit him with her car keys. Cindy was also telling people that she believed that Noel was evil, he was a demon, and she was convinced that he was going to hurt his newborn twin siblings. According to Cindy's mother, her daughter would frequently complain about Noel's disabilities and medical issues, and she would demean him. Then Noel's uncle said that Cindy had made the startling claim that she'd sold her son to a woman in the parking lot of a Fiesta Mart. However, when they asked her to contact the woman and prove that this was true, Cindy told them that she couldn't, because according to her, she was afraid that CPS would be called. But once police looked further into this story, they found no proof that Noel had been sold to anyone. The same evening that the Amber Alert had been issued, around 9 p.m. on March 25th, authorities located Cindy's Chevrolet Silverado, which was parked at a garage at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. They learned that the mother, along with the rest of her family, had driven there, then boarded a flight to Turkey, which later connected to India. Come to find out, they had left the day before, and 6-year-old Noel was not listed as being a passenger on the flight. So it was confirmed that the last time Noel had been seen by anyone outside of the home was in late October, during the birth of his twin siblings. Then on November 1st, Cindy and the rest of the family, again, minus Noel, had gotten their passport photos taken. The next day, she applied for those passports. Then on November 6th, she was online researching trips to India. Months later, on March 21st, Cindy and her husband Arshdeep obtained visas to India. Arshdeep had a warrant issued for his arrest at this time, for the charge of abandoning and endangering a child. After it was found that he'd stolen $10,000 from his employer shortly before fleeing, he was further charged.
These new pictures of Arshdeep Singh were taken at a bank, police said, just hours before he fled for India with his wife last month. After police started asking about 6-year-old Noel Rodriguez Alvarez, they say Singh went to a convenience store where he worked.
Investigators learned that Arshdeep first fraudulently altered the company's cash deposit records, likely in order to prevent detection, and then removed over $10,000 in cash from the company's safe.
The money may have helped fund the family's disappearance, planned as far back as the end of October last year.
Police went back to the residence where Cindy and her family had lived, and this time they would speak with the home's owner, Charles. He claimed to have been stunned that Noel was missing and that Cindy and the rest of the family had fled the country. Charles told investigators that the last time he had seen the little boy was at Thanksgiving time in 2022, and he believed that ever since then, he'd been with his father in Mexico, because that's what Cindy had told him. Then he said the last time he'd seen the rest of the family was on March 22nd, when they'd given him a ride to the hospital where he was supposed to have a surgical procedure done. But they hadn't come to pick him up like they had promised. Charles claimed to be Noel's godfather, and he also didn't believe that Cindy or Arshdeep would ever have hurt the boy, as they were good, loving parents. He stated that they spoiled their children because they always had toys and clothes, which, if you ask me, is not spoiling them, it's just giving them the basic necessities. Charles didn't believe that Cindy thought she did anything wrong, but rather had just escaped in a panic because she was afraid that her other children would be taken by CPS.
But you know why, if she had all those plans, she suddenly up and left?
Scared that she was going to go to prison for 8 years and then not watch her kids grow up. Her you take away from her twins, she ain't going to get to see them if she goes to prison.
She was scared that she was going to go to prison because
no
one was missing?
Yeah, because that and CPS are going to come take her kids to start off with. You know that with Noel missing, they're going to take the kids. And now people are saying she was abusive. I've never seen her abuse Noel or any of the kids.
Also, according to Charles, when Noel's twin siblings had been born in October of 2022, it caused the little boy a great deal of stress. So he would go on hunger strikes, refusing to eat, and he eventually became dangerously thin. While at Charles's home, law enforcement would get his permission to search the property, and they would find the Mexican idol of death, Santa Muerte, everywhere. The same symbol that Cindy had on the back of her truck. This included a large shrine of Santa Muerte near the family's shed. It's believed that Cindy may have been part of a cult centered around the saint. While the use of Santa Muerte can be completely harmless, it's also often used by cartels as their saint of protection. And there have additionally been cases of people who murdered others to provide an offering for Santa Muerte. Now, police were also very interested in a large concrete patio that had been installed in the backyard just 3 weeks prior. Before that, there had been a makeshift shed in the area, but it had been demolished to make way for the patio. The patio that Noelle's mother, Cindy, had paid $5,000 to have installed, using her family's entire tax refund, which seemed very suspicious since she didn't own the home and had never paid a dime in rent. However, when authorities dug up the slab, they would find no traces of Noelle. Charles, who was very annoyed by detectives digging up the patio, said,
And I kept telling them the slab was poured after Noelle supposedly had disappeared. You know, I mean, why would he be underneath the slab? I think they just tore it up because they don't have no idea where the boy is and they're frustrated.
But the fact that the concrete slab had been laid after Noelle disappeared makes it even more suspicious, not less suspicious.
But why was the slab poured and then the family immediately left?
Because she built the slab because, you know, she had the twins. She wanted to build a patio so the twins would have someplace she could sit in the patio and watch her kids play on the trampoline and the swings back there during the summer. But she eventually was going to add another room to the back of the house because her oldest daughter, the one that was with her now, not her oldest, but the one that lived with her, was going to need a room. She wanted a room, build a room. That's why it was heavy on one end. They kept saying it was heavy on one end because she was actually going to build another room back there.
What do you make of all this that's happening?
I know the police are desperate to find the boy, but they're looking in the wrong place, is all I can say, because he's not here.
Where do you think he is?
I have no idea. I think he's in Mexico, to be honest with you.
Do you think he's alive?
Yeah, I think he's alive, and that's why I told him I wasn't going to go to that deal they had last night, because until you show me a body that he's dead, then I'll believe you, because I think no way he's dead. Somebody's got him. Somebody's scared that they're going to get in trouble with the law because they've got him, and they got him illegally, basically. She didn't go through the courts like I asked her. Like I told her, if you're going to adopt Noelle, go through the court system, but she didn't do that.
Then when police brought cadaver dogs into the scene, they would alert to the concrete patio. They also alerted officers to a carpet that was found in a nearby dumpster. This carpet had once lined the floor to the makeshift shed where the patio now stood. And it had been disposed of by Cindy's husband, Arshdeep, just a day after police had been sent to the home to do a welfare check on Noelle. Then once the patio had been dug up, cadaver dogs again alerted officials to the smell of human decomposition, this time in the topsoil that was directly underneath the concrete. The police chief would say, one of the interesting pieces was that the carpet wasn't even at the house. It wasn't even at the location. So for the canines to be able to alert on a piece of evidence at one place and then go over and alert again where it was previously, all that tends to add up. It does lead us to believe that there were human remains at one point in time in the shed that used to exist where that concrete patio sits. On March 31st, police filed felony charges of abandonment and endangerment against Cindy and her boyfriend Arshdeep. Days later, on April 6th, they announced that they no longer believed that Noelle was alive, and the case was now a death investigation. Then on October 30th, a grand jury issued 4 indictments against Noelle's mother, Cindy, which included capital murder, 2 counts of injury to a child, and 1 count of abandoning without the intent to return. The search for the little boy continued, but with no results. Authorities were also unsuccessful in locating Cindy, Arshdeep, and Noelle's other siblings. As such, the case stayed silent for a while, but then in July of 2025, Cindy was added to the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list, and a $250,000 reward leading to her capture was offered. A little over a month later, on August 21st, 2025, Noelle's mother was finally found. She'd been hiding out in India and was then transported back to the United States, where she was booked into Tarrant County Jail on a $10 million bond. Cindy's boyfriend Arshdeep has still not been located, and neither has Noelle's body. There's been no official word on where the boys' siblings currently are. Cindy's mother and Noelle's grandmother said that she believes that Cindy killed her son, and that's why she fled. She also believes that Charles Parson knows more than he's leading on. The city of Everman voted to construct a new playground at Clyde Pittman Park in memory of Noelle. The playground is called the Noelle Angel Alvarez Playground, and it has special equipment which is meant for children with disabilities like Noelle. A memorial plaque was also installed at the playground, which details the little boy's story. When naming the playground, the community chose to leave the Rodriguez part out of his name, since that's Noelle's mother's last name, and they didn't want her to have any recognition whatsoever.
Where's your emergency?
I can't find my daughter.
Okay, when was the last time you seen her?
We were here at the park and people said that somebody took her.
Dulce Maria Alvarez was born in New Jersey on April 25, 2014, to her mother Noema Alvarez Perez and her father Edgar Perez. She was a sweet, loving, caring, and spunky little girl. Dulce loved watching the movie Frozen, while at the same time dancing and belting out the song Let It Go. She also enjoyed dressing up like a princess, and she was a great big sister to her younger brother Manny. At the time Dulce was born, her mother Noema was very young, only 14 years old. So her own mother Norma took care of the little girl for the most part, and she eventually became her legal guardian. And at the end of 2019, Dulce's father Edgar was deported back to Mexico. Now, the little girl had just recently started kindergarten, and on the afternoon of September 16th, 2019, around 3 p.m., her mother was waiting for her to get off the school bus. She then took Dulce along with her younger brother Manny and Noema's 8-year-old sister Camila to nearby Bridgeton City Park. On the way, around 4 p.m., the family stopped at a local gas station to buy some ice cream, which is where the final images of Dulce were captured on security camera. From there, they drove 3 minutes to the park, which also has a playground. However, at the time, the playground was said to be closed off for repairs and only the swings were still open. Though Noema would later say in an interview that Dulce had been playing on the slides. When they arrived, the mother parked her car in the parking lot that was near the basketball courts, and Dulce, along with her 3-year-old brother Manny, jumped out of the vehicle and ran towards the swings. They were only about 30 yards away. Normally, Dulce's mother, who was 5 months pregnant at the time, would bring their dog to the park, and she would walk around the playground with him while keeping an eye on the children. However, this time she didn't. Instead, she stayed in the car with her 8-year-old sister, who was doing her homework. And during this time, they also scratched a lottery ticket. So that day, Noema had promised Dulce that they would go to the park, since it was so nice out. But a little while before, she had actually changed her mind because she was feeling rather lazy. However, this was not something that Dulce wanted to hear, and she began giving her mother a hard time. So in the end, Noema had agreed to go to the park, but she sat in the car because she was feeling so tired. According to the mother, she could see the playground from where she was sitting in the vehicle, but the swings where her son and daughter had run off to were obstructed by a hill. It was reported that around 4:20 p.m., Manny came running back to the vehicle, and his sister was not with him. However, Noema would say that she noticed she hadn't heard or seen her children in some time, so she had asked her sister to get out of the car and go look for them. When Camila came back to the vehicle, she was in a panic, and she had Manny with her, who was crying. His ice cream was on the ground, and when he was asked where Dulce was, he just pointed to a nearby utility shed. But after Noema went over there to look for her daughter, she was nowhere to be seen. So she called up her brother who lived nearby and asked him to come down to the park and bring his dog as well to help look for her daughter. Then Noema asked a group of individuals who had been playing on the basketball court if they had seen Dulce. One person told her that they had seen the little girl running towards the building, and there had also been an African-American male standing nearby. Another child stated that they had seen a Hispanic man who had 2 young children with him. The thing is, there were no cameras located in the park, so there was no definitive way of telling where the 5-year-old had gone. At 5 p.m., about 40 minutes after she had noticed that Dulce was missing, Noema called the police and relayed to them the information that the people on the basketball court had given to her.
911, where's your emergency?
I can't find my daughter.
Okay, when was the last time you seen her?
We were here at the park and people said that somebody took her.
Okay. How old is she?
She's 5 years old.
Okay, and what park are you at?
Here in Bridgeton Park.
Okay, where at in the Bridgeton Park are you?
The one with the basketball court where high school is.
Okay, so you're at the basketball courts behind the high school?
Yes.
Okay. And what was she seen last wearing?
She was wearing, give me a second. I don't remember what clothes she was wearing, but she was wearing, I just remember her pants. She was wearing like a flowery pants and some heels, some white heels.
Okay. All right, ma'am, stay on the line. I'm going to transfer you over to the police, okay? And you said she was 5, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Hello, ma'am?
Hello.
Hi, did you see which direction your child went?
No, we were in the car. She came down with my son. They were running to the park, and then me and my sister, we came down. But when we got here at the park, she wasn't here. They said that my son was just crying with his ice cream. Because somebody threw his ice cream in the floor, and my daughter just ran away.
All right. You didn't see anyone else around there that she could possibly have went with?
No, not that I know of. Because we didn't saw no one. There's just some other people that they're here that said that they saw her running through some houses in the back. And they said that they saw two men. They saw a black guy and they saw a Mexican man with 2 kids.
Who's saying that they saw them?
Because there's people here in the basketball court that they saw her. They said that they saw her running.
They're saying that there's people there at the basketball court that they saw her running through some houses with 2 black males. She's light-skinned, Spanish. What color top does she have on?
I don't remember.
Okay. Are you at the basketball court?
Yes, I'm right here right now.
That's affirmed. She says that she's at the basketball court. And do you have your son with you, or is your son?
No, I have my son with me. They say he was crying when we found him. He was just standing there crying.
Oh, he was standing there crying. So who? You said that the black males took his ice cream?
No, they threw it in the floor. They had threw it in the floor.
So the two males took his ice cream and threw it on the floor, and then they left with your daughter?
Probably, because I didn't saw it. When we came and looked for her, we were looking everywhere for her, and we couldn't find her.
Her son was at the basketball court with her daughter, that there was 2 black males that took her son's ice cream and threw it on the ground and left with her daughter.
Okay, well, we have the officers. Are you on Mayor Aiken?
I already have an officer here.
Okay. All right, go speak with the police, ma'am, okay?
Okay.
It wasn't long until there were over 30 officers with dogs searching the area for Dulce, but she was nowhere to be found. With Bridgeton High School just yards away from the park, and with an adult baseball game going on nearby, authorities estimated that roughly 400 cars had been in the area when Dulce went missing. Many locals soon came out to help look for the little girl. But this potentially destroyed any evidence that a kidnapper could have left behind, like footprints or tire tracks. Noema told authorities that her daughter would not have just wandered away on her own. She was not the type of kid who would do that. She had also taught Dulce that if anyone ever tried to take her or hurt her, she should scream really loud so someone could come to help. But there had never been a scream heard at the park that day, just silence. Additionally, the little girl's ice cream and ice cream wrapper were nowhere to be found, something that you think she would have dropped had there been a struggle. The bloodhounds that police brought in eventually would pick up Dulce's scent, but it ended at Burt Street, about 12 feet away from the storage shed. Now, for some reason, it wasn't until 10 p.m. the next day that an Amber Alert was finally issued for Dulce. In this alert, police said that it was believed that the 5-year-old was taken by a light-skinned, possibly Hispanic male, roughly 5 feet 6 inches tall, who was driving a red van. This man was thought to be wearing orange sneakers, red pants, and a black shirt. It was said that he had been in the park that day with 2 other children under the age of 5, and Dulce may have gotten into a vehicle with him. It wasn't long until the little girl's mother, Noema, began facing serious criticism for not watching her children better while at the park, and many began to blame her for what had happened. They additionally wondered why it had taken her so long to call emergency services. The FBI was also now involved in the search for the 5-year-old. Dive teams began looking in nearby bodies of water, while police used dogs and helicopters to try to locate Dulce. A reward for any information leading to the little girl's whereabouts was also now being offered. Authorities were able to get in touch with Dulce's father, Edgar, and they quickly ruled him out as a suspect. Then rumors began to swirl that the girl's mother had been arrested, but police would make it clear during a press conference that that was simply not true. Noema spoke publicly and tried to dispel any rumors that she had anything to do with Dulce's disappearance.
Today marks 2 weeks since the monster that took my daughter. On that day, my life changed for the worst. I have not been the same ever since. People are saying I have something to do with it. This and saying bad things about me. Please stop the rumors. Please stop pointing fingers when you don't know and we don't know who took her. I want to thank the law enforcement for searching and investigating, all the media for covering my daughter's case since day one. Also, everybody that has taken time out of their schedule to go out and look for her. All the prayers for my family and we all greatly appreciate it all. I beg you all, please don't give up on my Dulce. Let's keep pushing to find her safe. Please continue to pass along her pictures on social media and passing out flyers. Don't be afraid to call any tips. If you were here in the park that day, please double check your phone for pictures, and any little bit may help.
Mama, can you show us what you brought with you today?
I brought her favorite toy, Frozen. She loves to play Frozen. She always used to sing it. She always used to tell me to put her song Frozen, and everything. She always listens to it. She even has a dress, and she puts it on and thinking that she's Frozen.
For Elsa?
Yes.
How are you?
Worried about my daughter.
The fact that it's been 2 weeks today, can you share with us if you've reflected on what you might have done differently that Monday afternoon?
How?
Would you have done anything differently that day?
I just don't be going out that much, so now I'm scared. I'm scared of going out now because of people saying things and rumors.
But what I'm getting at is, take us back to that Sunoco. You stopped to get ice cream. Did anyone say anything to you at that store? Did anyone follow you from the store to the park?
No.
What do you think happened to your daughter?
I'm not sure.
Have you ever been bothered? Your children ever been bothered? Any custody issue?
No.
Everybody's very curious about Dulce's father. Can you tell us what you know as far as what's been going on the last 2 weeks since your daughter disappeared, as far as him? Has he come to the U.S.? Have you spoken to him? What can you tell us about him?
I haven't talked to him since that, but I had talked to him, but then we stopped talking.
Do you have a good or bad relationship with him?
We usually talk that much.
Do you think he's involved in this?
I don't think so, because he's in Mexico.
Is he still there?
Yes.
He hasn't come here?
No, he can't because he doesn't have the money to come.
Noema, could you share with us what your son said to you when he ran back to the car?
He didn't run back to the car. He was just standing there, crying.
And what did he say in those initial
He doesn't
moments?
talk.
He doesn't talk?
No.
So he was crying?
He was just crying. When I went up to him and I asked him, where's your sister? He just pointed behind the buildings. That's it, because he can't speak still.
Nearly a month after Dulce went missing, police released a sketch of a potential suspect whom they wanted to talk to. He was described as a slender male, possibly Hispanic, roughly 30 to 35 years old, standing 5 feet 6 inches to 5 feet 8 inches tall, and he had acne on his face. The man was seen wearing a baseball cap, a black shirt, orange sneakers, and red shorts, and he was driving a red van that had sliding doors. This has made many wonder how someone could have been close enough to this individual to see that he had acne on his chin, yet not close enough to know if he actually had Dulce with him. It's also never been said who it was that gave this description to police. The 5-year-old's disappearance soon gained national attention, and her mother, Noema, was invited onto the Dr. Phil show in December of 2019 for an interview. When she appeared, she was asked if she had any idea as to who could have taken Dulce. At that point, she mentioned an old friend who had tried to date her several times in the past, but she had always shut him down. The man had seen her and Dulce together recently and asked if that was her daughter, to which she replied yes. According to her, this man was one of the last people that saw Dulce. However, Noema would later tell another news station that she did not believe that this person had anything to do with her daughter's disappearance. And the only reason why she had mentioned him was because she was trying to answer Dr. Phil's questions. She also stated that police had previously given her a polygraph test, but they had never given her the results of it. Many believed that when Noema was on the Dr. Phil show, her demeanor was off. She did not seem that upset and didn't shed a single tear. Dr. Phil shared a similar sentiment, saying that she was one of the most emotionally flat parents with a missing child that he had ever seen. However, he also stated that this may have been due to her first language being Spanish, because when she made an appeal to her daughter in that language, her emotion was much more apparent. A woman named Jackie Rodriguez, who had previously been a spokesperson for the family, would speak about Noema on the show. She said that she had known the mother for years and had only seen her cry once. It was just normal for her to not cry. But Jackie also said that Noema seemed too calm, like she knew where her daughter was, and she knew that she was okay. Jackie, who now runs a Facebook page for Dulce's case, has claimed that Noema had a boyfriend at the time that Dulce went missing, the father of her 2 youngest children. And according to her, he was arrested the week after the little girl went missing on charges of essaying a minor, though it was unrelated to Dulce. It's also been said that he owned a red van. Another odd thing is that Dulce's grandmother, Norma, who said that the little girl normally loved school, had been crying that morning about not wanting to go. Eventually, her grandmother had bribed her with pizza, saying they could get some at the end of the day. But she had found this rather strange because Dulce always wanted to go to school. The search for Dulce continued for years with no results. Then come 2022, some cryptic letters began to show up in Ohio. There was one postcard that had been sent to a casino and racetrack that was near Austintown, Ohio. And it said, "Look for Dulce Alves, age 5, kidnapped, Bridgetown, New Jersey. Look website for story photos. Dr. Phil. 76 truck stop, dead end street, entrance woods. Please look." 2 more letters were sent to a library and an ice cream shop in the area. All 3 were handwritten, and the postcard had a zip code from Mexico. However, authorities have said that they do not believe that it actually came from Mexico, but rather the person who wrote it just put that on there. The area specified in the postcard had been searched by officers, but they were unable to find any evidence leading to Dulce's whereabouts. One of the letters, the one that had been sent to the library, was rather hard to read, but it had keywords in it such as Alaska, Mexico border, 1776, Civil War, New England town, kids home, and orphanage. All these letters appeared to have been written by the same person, but they were eventually dismissed as nothing but a hoax. Many people think that Dulce's father, Edgar, may have had something to do with her disappearance, especially since he's in Mexico, and many tips that law enforcement have received have come from Mexico. There's also the fact that the little girl did not scream when she was taken, which likely means that she was taken by someone that she knew. As Dulce's 7th birthday approached, her father Edgar posted a video online, wishing her a happy birthday and proclaiming that he had nothing to do with her disappearance. This prompted police to reach out to him once again, but nothing further would come of it.
Hello everyone, my name is Edgar Perez.
In his own words, the father of Dulce Maria Alves with a message on his daughter's 7th birthday.
I'm really sad and hurt. It's been almost 2 years.
According to police, her mother said she found Dulce's 3-year-old brother crying and her daughter nowhere to be found.
I don't know if my baby girl is okay.
Perez, who was deported in late 2018 and unable to see his daughter in the months leading up to her disappearance, professing to those who questioned his relationship with Dulce Maria that he took care of her from when she was a little baby.
I changed her diaper and did everything for her.
And denying claims he has her or knows where she is.
For those that think that I took my baby girl, let me tell you that I got nothing to do with it. Just like everyone, I want to know where she is.
Do you think he had something to do with her disappearance?
To be honest, I don't know, because I haven't seen them. I haven't talked to him.
Is there someone you suspect?
To be honest, no.
Noema remains convinced that her daughter has not disappeared forever, and she said, "In my mother's heart, I believe I'll see her again one day." According to her, she's been living a nightmare, and no matter how hard she tries, she can't seem to wake up from it. Noema stated, "Every night when I go to sleep, I'm like, God, please don't let this all be real. But then I wake up the next day, and it is. And it's been that way for me again and again, every single day since the day Dulce disappeared." Multiple candlelight vigils have been held for Dulce Alves, who to this day has still not been found. Since her disappearance, her family has celebrated Dulce's birthdays and Christmases at Bridgeton City Park as they gather around Dulce's tree. If you have any information in regards to Dulce's whereabouts, please contact either the FBI or the Bridgeton Police Department at 856-451-0033. Well, thank you for listening to Dulce's story today. I think that someone that she knew had to have taken her at the park that day. There were no signs of a struggle, and no one heard a scream. I also feel like there's the potential that her mother knows more than she's saying. Like the family's previous spokesperson, Jackie, said, she seemed much too calm throughout the entire ordeal. But what do you think? Either way, hopefully Dulce's out there somewhere, safe and still alive.
The picture behind me is of Zanaya, and that will always be haunting because it was taken just a short time before the evidence shows that she was never seen or heard from again. She is smiling and waving and saying hello, but little did she know that she was really saying goodbye.
Neziah Harris was born on September 16, 2010 in Detroit, Michigan, to her mother, Kenyatta Harris, and her father, Mervyn Jennings. She was a straight-A student at her school, J.E. Clark Preparatory Academy, where she was in the 8th grade. Neziah was said to be incredibly sweet, creative, bright, and bubbly. She loved making TikTok videos and spending time with her cousins. Now, when Neziah was born, she was a product of her parents' workplace affair. Her father, Mervyn, was married at the time, but he had been having some problems in his relationship, which were further exacerbated by his alcoholism. Her mother, Kenyatta, was said to be a party girl and often used drugs. So due to their current lifestyles, the couple decided to sign over their parental rights of Neziah to her maternal grandmother, Annette Harris. According to Mervyn, he visited his daughter whenever he was able to, and he also provided her with financial support when he could. However, he'd mostly lost contact with Neziah in 2016 and said that he'd been trying ever since to get back in touch with her, something that was made more difficult by his congestive heart failure. At present, Neziah and her grandmother lived in a home in Detroit. The girl's aunt Shannon, along with her 5 children, were also said to have moved into the home in October of 2023. Though even when the aunt didn't live there, she was said to constantly be hanging out at the residence. Then, on the afternoon of January 9th, 2024, Neziah walked off her school bus at her regular bus stop, which was on Cornwall and 3 Mile Drive, just a short ways away from her home. After that, she was never seen again. But Neziah wasn't immediately reported as missing. Her grandmother wouldn't report it until the following day. And when she did, she apparently didn't report it to police, but rather she called up Neziah's school and told them. The Detroit School District had then tried to handle the matter on their own before authorities were ever contacted. They were under the impression that Neziah was a teenage runaway and they could handle the matter on their own. So it wasn't until over a month later, on February 13th, 2024, that they decided to turn to the Detroit Police Department for help. And once authorities were alerted of the situation, a missing persons flyer went out for Neziah. It stated that the 13-year-old girl, who was 5 feet 2 inches tall and weighed 130 pounds, was last seen wearing a light blue jean shirt, light blue jean pants, a pink and white Rugrats coat with a fur collar, and blue and white Nike gym shoes. Authorities would find that a neighbor's Ring video doorbell footage had captured Neziah getting off the school bus. This was at 2:54 p.m. on January 9th. Unusually, the 13-year-old had begun walking in the opposite direction of her grandmother's house. Police began searching for the girl within a 4-mile radius of her home. They handed out missing person flyers to neighbors and brought canines into the scene. Many locals additionally joined in the search for Neziah.
For her to be late, she has never been late coming home. She's always got permission to do things.
Annette Harris is 13-year-old Neziah Harris's grandmother and legal guardian.
When was the last time that you heard from your granddaughter?
When I dropped her off at school, which was on January the 9th. Neziah is a very sweet child. She really is. You know, and my biggest fear is somebody hurting her.
We don't believe that initially there was an abduction.
Police say they don't believe Neziah was abducted initially, but when pressed, wouldn't answer if they think she went off with someone willingly. And that tells me that Neziah's school looked at the bus video from January 9th and can see Neziah getting off at her regular stop here.
She got off the bus with her schoolmate and walked up to the corner of Warren and 3 Mile Drive. And one of the school kids said that she turned right instead of turning left, and that's all I know.
Police say they are questioning everyone who knows Neziah. They're working with local, state, and federal partners to look everywhere.
If someone is watching right now and they know where Neziah is, what would you like to say to them?
Nazia's life may be in danger and you don't even know it because you're keeping information or trying to keep her hidden because of what you think. Nazia needs to be home with her family, and we love her.
While fighting back tears,
I lost 2 sons already recently.
Mervyn Jennings, father of Nazia Harris, is pleading for his daughter's return home.
It's a lot, but she was a beautiful child, just a beautiful child. I go out every day. We pass out the flyers. I read the comments. I look at this. I look at that. I'm out. I'm talking about me and the commissioner.
So at this point, police also wanted to speak with Nazia's teachers, friends, and classmates to see if they knew anything. According to the 13-year-old substitute teacher, Nazia had seemed sad or upset about something, and at one point during the day, she laid herself on the floor and asked to speak to a school guidance counselor. However, the counselor had never come up to see her. Then the lunch lady who spoke with Nazia every day said that she seemed rather down and not like herself. When detectives went to speak with Nazia's classmates and friends, at first they didn't gain any relevant information. But over time, the young girl's friends would come forward to officers about what they knew. And they told them that Nazia had been planning on running away. But according to her grandmother, Annette, she wasn't the type of kid who would run away. In fact, she never even had any unexcused absences from school. Even if she had left at her own volition, she wouldn't have just gone completely silent. Nazia was constantly active on social media, and after January 9th, there had been no posts made. Then come to find out, during the school day on January 9th, the 13-year-old had sent a few text messages to a man named Jarvis Butts from her school-issued tablet. The first message read, "Don't forget, be there by 3. I will let you know when I'm leaving the school. If you're not there, I will wait." The second text stated, "Send okay if you see the message so I can delete your number." To which Jarvis had replied back, "Okay." Now, Jarvis Butts was a 41-year-old man who had previously been in a relationship with Nazia's aunt, Shannon Harris, the same one who had been living with the young girl and her grandmother for some time. Shannon and Jarvis were said to have begun dating in 2012, shortly after he'd been released from jail, due to previous charges of criminal sexual conduct and a weapons-related offense. This wasn't just a one-time incident either, as Jarvis had a previous history of being predatory towards women and young girls too. He was known for entering into relationships with vulnerable women who had young daughters. Once he had gained their trust, he would prey on the children and tell them to keep it a secret. Jarvis had multiple children of his own too. It was said to be 13 in total, 5 of which he had had with Shannon. So back in 2005, Jarvis had assaulted a child and was subsequently sentenced to time in jail. Upon his release, he had to register as a sex offender, meaning that Nazia's aunt Shannon had to have known this. Then between 2012 and 2014, he had committed his crimes again on an 8 to 12-year-old child. And from 2015 to 2017, he committed these disgusting acts yet again, this time on a 4 to 6-year-old. And he infected this little girl with chlamydia. So Nazia was his 4th known victim. She was said to be only 11 years old at the time he had begun assaulting her. This estimate was based on text messages that investigators would later discover between the two. However, that does not account for the possibility that Jarvis could have gotten a phone in the 12 years since he had known her. And or the fact that Nazia did not have a cell phone of her own, therefore there would be no record of any messages sent between them. Meaning that there's a strong possibility that he had been SAing her much before she had turned 11. That's just as far back as police have records for. There had also been at least 5 CPS reports made about Jarvis between 2015 and 2022. These again were in regards to his inappropriate behavior towards children, and 2 of the reports had been made by Nazia's relatives themselves. This had come after Jarvis had lured Nazia and another young girl into an isolated room during a birthday party in February of 2022, where he had then assaulted them. Here's how Naziah's great aunt Janelle describes what happened during an interview with the Community Advocate Network channel.
There was one little girl who was another, Annette's other sister's daughter was there. Now, this child had never been around Jarvis alone before. Or I think she might have been at the birthday party or something, an adult birthday party, but it was at a hall. But she was at Shannon's home, and this young lady was so afraid. Shannon's telling me this. She ran upstairs, frantic and afraid and scared, and wanted to go home and wanted to call her mother because Jarvis touched her inappropriately while she was in the basement playing with the puppy. While this little group, now Jarvis was on the game, he wasn't thinking about going up there with Shannon or nothing. Shannon says all of a sudden, while she's up there, she's trying to calm this little girl down and talk to her, Jarvis comes and knocks on the door and said, "What's wrong with her?" And I said, "Shannon, why are you calling me? Is he dead or is he in jail?" No, he left. What you mean he left? Call the police. Let them know where he's going, what car he's in.
Right.
Well, I'm about to take her home, then I'm going to call my mama. What? So I called her back like maybe 30 minutes later. Like, did you call the police? No, my mama said bring the kids home tomorrow morning. She going to talk to him. I'm like, no, y'all don't need to talk to him. You need to contact the police. She did not contact the police. I found out later the police were never contacted. The next day when I called Shannon, I talked to her. She said, my mama talked to them and said the kids end up telling us they lied. They was mad because he wouldn't give them no money. So I called Annette and I said, Annette, are you guys going to call the police? She said, yes, we're handling. I'm going to call the police. So I left it alone. Like, she going to call the police. Shannon assured me that the police had been called, they were involved, there was an investigation going on, all of this. This was in February 22. Well, in April of 22, I called Shannon in a lie. The police were never called. The children were not receiving counseling. Nothing had happened. So I went to the Clinton Township Police and I told them that I wanted to make a report. They told me I couldn't make a report because I didn't have enough information about the child who actually accused him of the sexual. I said, but the other children also accused him of sexual abuse. They said, well, they didn't happen that night. And I'm like, he said, it would probably be best for you to call CPS. So I called CPS and I told Shannon I called CPS. I said, if y'all didn't call, I told you to call the police. I told you to get the kids help. You didn't do it. So I'm calling CPS. I'm not only you, but I'm calling them on your mama too.
And while records showed that CPS had investigated the allegations in regards to the other young girl, they never spoke with Naziah. And when Jarvis was subsequently interviewed by Child Protective Service workers in regards to these allegations, he denied everything. Therefore, nothing else came of it. It was sometime in 2023 that Shannon and Jarvis were said to have split up. But even after that, he still referred to Naziah as his niece and continued to see her in secret, regardless of the fact that he was now engaged. And also despite Naziah's family now knowing full well that he was a child predator. So police wanted to speak to him in regards to Naziah's whereabouts. And on February 14th, 2025, Jarvis, who was already being held in jail on unrelated charges, was questioned by detectives. He claimed he had not seen the 13-year-old since late December, early January. When Jarvis was asked why Naziah would have been texting him and why she even had his phone number saved to begin with, he claimed he didn't know. However, he did state that Naziah would sometimes go down to the auto shop that he owned, because she, along with some of his children, would do small odd jobs for him. He was then questioned about his whereabouts on January 9th, the day that Naziah had gone missing. Jarvis stated that he had been taking care of some charges against him for carrying a concealed weapon, and his wife had brought him down to the courthouse so he could turn himself in. While this story was partially true, the day that he was supposed to turn himself over to authorities had actually been pushed back to the beginning of February. Now, as he was sitting in jail on his unrelated charges, Jarvis called up his coworker from the auto shop, and he asked him to retrieve his phone from his truck before police could get to it. However, authorities listened in on this jail call and were therefore able to obtain the cell phone, and Jarvis's Cadillac was subsequently impounded. Then, on March 7th, a woman called up the Detroit Police Department and told them that she had walked by a school ID on the ground for the last 2.5 weeks. That day, she finally decided to pick it up, and when she did, she recognized Naziah's face. A few days later, on March 12th, some discarded clothing items were located during a search near 7 Mile Street and Rogue River. A balled-up pink jumpsuit was found with a Nike shoe inside. A second sneaker was then discovered, along with some gloves, a dirty towel, and a black hoodie that had some earbuds in the pocket. There was damage to these various items too, indicating that there had possibly been a struggle. When the clothing was examined, blood was found, and both Jarvis and Naziah's DNA were confirmed to be on the jumpsuit and the black hoodie. Now, even though this was not the clothing that Naziah had last been seen wearing, it's possible that she had this pink jumpsuit on underneath those clothes because it was very cold out. There's also the possibility that she had this additional set of clothing inside her backpack. Now, after Naziah had gotten off the school bus on January 9th, she had met up with Jarvis and his co-worker, Cordell King Wright, at the auto shop that they owned. While she was there, Jarvis's sister had stopped by and said that she saw the teen, but she didn't speak with her. Jarvis, Cordell, and Naziah had then gone to the town of Ypsilanti for a little while, before again returning back to the shop. Jarvis had thereafter rented a room at the Park Crest Motel from 9:30 p.m. on January 9th to 12:20 p.m. on January 10th. There's been rumors that Naziah was with him at the time, but nothing has been officially confirmed. Then, between 11:40 p.m. on January 10th and 1:34 p.m. on January 11th, Jarvis's cell phone tracked him near the Rogue River, which was the same location where the items of clothing had been found. It was also near where Naziah's school ID had been discovered. Investigators soon located many explicit text messages that had been sent between Jarvis and Naziah. These also included inappropriate photos as well. And they went back as far as September of 2022. In one message, Jarvis told the girl that he had visited her house when she wasn't there and taken a pair of her panties with him. He had additionally asked her for naked pictures of herself, made sexual advances towards her, and then guilt-tripped her when she wouldn't do what he wanted. Come to find out, on September 26, 2023, Naziah had informed Jarvis that she missed her period. And while she had already taken a pregnancy test, it came back negative. So she wanted to take another one to confirm that she was pregnant, and she texted Jarvis saying, "You ain't scared to get a plan B, get a pregnancy test and bring it later today, and just act like you have to use the bathroom." About a month later, on November 27th, she messaged him again saying, "I just want to talk. I really don't want to lose you." Another text was sent shortly after saying, "Can we talk later, yes or no? I don't know what your problem is, but I need you to bring me what I need tonight. It's hard doing all this gym shit with this baby, and if I don't do them, I'm gonna get an F." Shortly after these messages had been sent, Jarvis's search history showed that he had been looking up how to terminate a pregnancy. This included results that suggested drinking a special herbal tea and also drinking red antifreeze. Naziah had been looking up similar information on her tablet. It wouldn't be until months after she had gone missing, on August 15th, 2024, that a warrant was issued for Jarvis's arrest, and shortly after, he was apprehended. He was charged with first-degree premeditated murder, essay of a child, and second-degree criminal sexual conduct with a person under the age of 13. He was also charged in relation to his previous victims, and his bond was denied. Then, on September 26th, authorities announced that they would be shifting their focus from a missing persons case to a homicide investigation. They believed that there was now enough evidence to show that Naziah was no longer alive, even though her body has still not been found to this day.
The picture behind me is of Zaniyah, and that will always be haunting because it was taken just a short time before the evidence shows that she was never seen or heard from again. It was taken by Naziah herself, a selfie. That's the last known picture that we know about of her. And it was pointed out to me by one of the detectives on this case and by one of the prosecutors. She is smiling and waving and saying hello. but little did she know that she was really saying goodbye. The evidence shows overwhelmingly in this case that she is in fact deceased. The last time she was seen alive was January the 9th of this year, 2024, almost 9 months ago. Her missing status was reported to the Detroit Public School Police Department by her grandmother on that very day, when she never returned home from school. And again, that was January the 9th of 2024. In early February of 2024, the case was turned over to the Detroit Police Department. Frankly, that should have happened right away, but they began investigating immediately. The evidence would further show that through text messages that we know and that we have, Zanaya and this defendant were going to meet after school on January the 9th. We know that she did indeed meet up with the defendant that we're charging in this case. We also know that several people close to Mr. Butts, who we were charging later, saw them together in several different locations, people that he knew well. We have evidence that at 9:30 p.m. on that day, that Mr. Butts checked into a motel and that Zanaya was never seen or heard from again. Not from her family, not from her schoolmates, not from her friends, not from social media where she was extremely active with her friends, not from teachers, no one.
A preliminary hearing would be held in January of 2025, which was to determine if there was enough evidence against Jarvis to take the case to trial. During this time, 8 different witnesses would testify, including Nazaya's aunt and grandmother. In Nazaya Aunt Shannon's testimony, she would say that she had never been aware that there was anything inappropriate going on. She believed that the relationship between Jarvis and Nazaya was that of a typical uncle and niece. Once Annette Harris took the stand, she oddly pretended that she could not find Jarvis in the courtroom, even though he was about 20 feet away from her.
Did you know someone by the name of Jarvis Butts?
Yes.
And do you see Mr. Butts in the courtroom today? If you need to stand up and look around.
I don't see him.
Do you need glasses, ma'am?
Yeah, my
Okay,
daughter has my glasses.
Okay, Judge, may I take a moment to go get her glasses?
Yes.
May I approach witness, Judge?
Yes. Thank you.
And if you could just stand up and take another look around.
Okay. Yes.
Do you see Mr. Butts in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you
Yes.
point to him and identify a piece of clothing that he's wearing?
Blue uniform with the blue mask.
Once she finally was able to find him, she said that Jarvis hardly ever had gone into the home. Usually he would just pull up in his truck and then Shannon would go outside to visit with him. Though in text messages that had been sent between Nazaya and Jarvis, there were multiple references to him being inside Annette's house.
And Ms. Harris, how did you know Mr. Butts back in January of 2024?
He's the father of my daughter's children.
And is that daughter Shannon Harris?
Yes.
Okay. How many kids do they have together?
5.
And would he come around your house on Bedford in January or the months leading up to January?
Whenever he did come, he would always pull up in a white truck, and Shannon would go out to the car, and they would sit and talk or whatever, but he would very rarely come in my house.
Okay. And during that time when he would come around and sit in his car, was there any times that he would interact with Nazaya that you saw?
Not that I remember, no.
Okay.
Jarvis's coworker, Cordell King Wright, would also testify. He stated that he and Jarvis had picked up Nazaya on January 9th. Before they'd driven to an AutoZone store to pick up a water pump. But as they were returning back to the shop, they realized they forgot something. Which makes me wonder, was that item the red antifreeze? Cordell then stated that when they were on their way back to the auto shop the second time, Jarvis suddenly acted like he had spotted his niece Nazaya, even though he had just been texting her a little while earlier and they planned on meeting up. So Jarvis, who had been driving, pulled the truck over and they picked up Neziah. After that, they went back to the shop, and Neziah spent a few hours going in and out of Jarvis's vehicle, during which time she was also texting on her phone. Once Jarvis's sister showed up a little while later, Cordell claimed that Jarvis would introduce Neziah as being Cordell's niece, not his. Around 6:30 p.m., he and Jarvis, along with Neziah, had driven 2 separate cars to Ypsilanti. This was so they could drop off a customer's vehicle. They then returned to the shop around 8:45 p.m., at which point Cordell had gone home. The next morning, Jarvis hadn't shown up for work. One of Neziah's cousins would also testify during this preliminary hearing, and she would say that she had witnessed Jarvis being inappropriate with the 13-year-old. He had also done the same with another of their underage cousins, and this had occurred at his auto shop. The young girl stated that he had also tried to make advances towards her, but she refused. Then Jarvis's former fiancée, Tashiana Davis, would take the stand, and she said that he was a habitual cheater who would always hide his phone from her. Yet she had remained with him because, according to her, he was good with kids. Another one of Jarvis's former girlfriends also testified, and she said that on the night of January 9th, he had borrowed her car. When she had gotten the vehicle back, she found a pair of eyeglasses inside, which were identical to the ones that Neziah wore. Upon Jarvis realizing she was holding the glasses, he'd snatched them away and claimed they belonged to his son. After everyone's testimony was heard, a judge would decide that there was indeed enough evidence for Jarvis to go to trial, and it's scheduled to begin on October 6th, 2025. The judge who made this decision, Judge Aaliyah Sabri, described Jarvis as the monster in this whole picture, but she also blamed all the other adults who had been in Neziah's life and failed her.
Mr. Butt, stand up. You've been sitting over there for 4 days with your head down, sitting between and behind your attorney with your mask on and taking vigorous notes. I want you to pay attention and listen to everything I have to say. I have been trying to figure out for the last 5 days, you. At one point, I thought you were cognitively impaired in the beginning of this exam. And then maybe you had the brain of a 10-year-old, and that's why you were doing such things. But as I heard more and more testimony, you're just a true definition of a. Watching you laugh and brag about all the women you have with different women and the children and the girlfriends, and making babies to groom them, and having them in your presence, cleaning up your shop, and the little girls around you, has landed you here today. You groomed Neziah. You played mind games with her. We all heard that. You controlled her emotionally. She was exposed to so much at such a young age. The text messages between you two were disgusting to hear. And to think that she had you saved in her phone as bae for life. Neziah deserves so much more. And while I mentioned other people that failed her, Jarvis Butts, you are the monster in this whole picture. She did deserve love from her parents and everyone who was in her life. She was ignored, she was neglected, and you took complete advantage of that. She wanted someone to love her, and she will never know what that feels like. Your children deserve more. I pray for the healing of all the victims and the young girls and possibly boys who have come into contact with you. As a community, we should look at this case as a prime example of how much work we have to do when it comes to protecting our children and especially our black girls. I pray for closure and healing for all those who have been traumatized by you.
Many others have been blaming Neziah's family for what happened to her too, especially her grandmother and her Aunt Shannon. She was only 13, but had been sneaking around for years seeing Jarvis, and they claimed they had no idea. They also stated that they didn't know she was pregnant, which I find a little hard to believe. As Neziah's story gained attention online, rapper Skilla Boy spoke out. He not only demanded justice for her, but also offered to cover the costs for the community to hold a memorial service for Neziah. He said that normally he would donate the money to the family for something like this, but from what he's heard, her entire family failed her. Well, thank you for listening to Neziah's story today. It's so heartbreaking that nobody who was supposed to be there for her was. She was only 13, and from the looks of it, pretty much navigating this world on her own. And this evil man, Jarvis, took full advantage of the situation, having his way with her for years, then killing her.
As the massive search continues in the thickly wooded area of this Nova Scotia community, 6-year-old Lily and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan's mother and stepfather are holding out hope, waiting and praying for any good news.
The very first day I wasn't around very much because I was just searching. I was running through the woods, screaming their name till my throat hurt.
Jack and Lily Sullivan were siblings born close to 2 years apart to their mother, Malia Brooks Murray. Their father had not been in their lives since they were very young, and he was said to be currently on house arrest. However, the kids did have a stepfather named Daniel Martell. He'd been with their mother for 3 years, and the couple also had a 16-month-old daughter together. Daniel additionally had 2 of his own children. For the past 2 years, the family had lived in Daniel's home, located on Garlock Road in Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia. Then, on the morning of Friday, May 2nd, 2025, around 10 a.m., 6-year-old Lily and her 4-year-old brother Jack would be reported as missing. According to their stepfather Daniel, around 8:30 that morning, Jack and Lily had been in another room playing, while he and Malia were in their bedroom along with their 16-month-old daughter feeding her. During this time, he said that he had heard Jack in the kitchen, and Lily had poked her head into the bedroom once or twice. A little while later, when Daniel realized that he had not heard anything from the children in about 20 minutes, he went out to the kitchen to look for them. But they weren't there, and they weren't anywhere else inside the house either. Then he noticed that their rubber rain boots were missing as well. So the stepfather assumed that they had put on their boots, silently gone out the back sliding door, and left through the yard. However, Daniel said that the door was closed when he discovered it, and normally Jack and Lily would leave it wide open when they went in and out of the home. He would always need to remind them to close it. Daniel additionally told detectives that he believed Lily had taken her white strawberry backpack with her. The stepfather claimed that once he realized they were missing, he jumped in his vehicle and began looking for the kids. At the same time, their mother, Malia, stayed behind at the home and contacted 911. According to Daniel, he had searched every nearby dirt road and culvert. When he got back, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police were at the home, and they told him that he was not allowed to go back in the woods to continue searching. However, one guy dressed in military gear did allow him to go back in the woods, so he jumped the fence and continued looking.
We were searching. We covered everywhere possible. Even in the first day we did. Even with me running through the woods, I was ahead of the helicopters and ahead of the drones and stuff like that. Screaming as loud as I can, and just until my throat hurt. Running through water that was up to my waist. And as soon as I got back, I wasn't allowed back in the woods until a man dressed in a military outfit said I could go back into the woods.
Authorities' search for the siblings began immediately, with helicopters, drones, and about 160 emergency service personnel all assisting. And while a vulnerable missing persons alert went out to the public, an Amber Alert did not, since police did not believe the children had been abducted, but rather that they had wandered away on their own. 6-year-old Lily is described as having shoulder-length light brown hair with bangs and maybe wearing a pink sweater, pink pants, and pink boots. She's believed to be carrying a white backpack with strawberries on it. Jack has short blondish hair and was last seen wearing a pull-up diaper and blue dinosaur boots. Daniel also later said that Jack was wearing a brown shirt and brown pants, too. While investigators didn't think the siblings had been abducted, their stepfather seemed very worried about this possibility, and he urged authorities to check the New Brunswick border as well as local airports. It seems their mother, Malia, believed the same. The area where their home is located is very rural, though. It's not on a busy road. And in the 20-minute period of time that Daniel and Malia claimed that Lily and Jack had gone missing, it seems a little far-fetched in my mind. However, anything's possible at this point. Now, according to the children's biological paternal grandmother, Belinda Gray, Jack and Lily had last been seen on Thursday night when they were put to bed. They were then heard playing in the other room on Friday morning around 8:30, and their mother and stepfather, who were in the other room, fell back asleep. When they woke up to silence, and they discovered that the children were missing. They had then called 911 around 9:40. But one thing that's odd about this case is that in a police dispatch call, it said that Jack and Lily went missing around 8 a.m., not around 9:40 a.m. as Daniel had reported.
In the bedroom, we were called this morning, and they haven't been seen since then. I need to get a good statement and figure stuff out.
Now, both children went to Salt Springs Elementary School, and according to their stepfather, they had not gone in on Thursday or Friday because Lily had a cough. Daniel also said that the only thing that they had found were 2 boot prints about 10 meters away from the home. Authorities, on the other hand, said it was only 1 boot print, and it was towards the end of the driveway.
That's pink boots for Lily, blue boots for Jack with dinosaurs on them. Lily had her backpack with white, and it was white with strawberries on it. I imagine now if they're in the woods that it'd be probably brown, but I don't see them carrying their backpack. I don't see them keeping a pull-up on for that long after it got soaked from the very first day. We only found the 2 boot tracks outside of the house.
Whereabouts?
Right beside the house, probably 10 feet away from the backyard.
In the backyard, okay.
Nothing new, other than the helicopters are still in the air, and they had dogs. They took around the dogs today, and they had, as of last night, they had 8 more drones going on with infrared. I urge the public to come out if you have anything, come out as fast as possible and get it to any detachment or any police service that you have available to get to talk to.
And when police brought dogs into the scene, they were able to track the children's scent, but it ended right at the road. Daniel would say that Lily and Jack had never crossed the street by themselves, and they had never gone into the woods alone. The stepfather also mentioned that the children had some cabins or forts that they'd built in the woods a little ways away from the house. He stated that they'd never gone past that point with Jack or Lily, so he did not believe that they would have wandered any further than that on their own. In an interview that Jack and Lily's mother, Malia, did the day after they disappeared, she would give her version of events.
What happened was we woke up, I heard them playing in the next room beside us, and I was drifting in and out of sleep, and they're not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them, watching them, and they happen to just get out that sliding door, and we can't hear it when it opens. And they were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time, and the next thing we knew, it was quiet, and we get up, and I tell him, my partner, Daniel, I tell him, do you hear the kids? And he says, no. And we get up instantly. We're looking outside. We're looking everywhere, yelling for them. And I instantly just call 911. I just had the instinct I needed to call.
She also said that the children had possible autism, though it wasn't severe, and only made it difficult for them to keep up with their peers in school. She stated that Jack and Lily were very friendly kids and would talk to pretty much anyone.
Both really go-lucky children. They're so sweet. They talk to anyone. They'll talk your ear off. They will speak to anyone in a store. Everyone. They're just extremely sweet kids. I appreciate the huge search effort going on right now. But we've been pushing for an Amber Alert, which hasn't been issued. Not just that they could possibly be abducted, which it is a possibility that they could have been, but just an alert to let everyone know that they are missing. We had people text me saying that they weren't aware someone else let them know that they were missing, and it would just be nice if everyone could be alerted. We thought maybe that we found tracks, but it's still uncertain. It's been raining and they're probably soaking wet, but with the sun today, I'm hopeful that they are feeling warm. We're all filled with pain and sorrow because we just want them found. We want them home. Everyone loves them. They are definitely verbal, and they do have possible autism, but it's not extreme autism. It's just they have issues with school, and they don't catch up with the other kids. I just want to remain hopeful. But there's always, in a mother's mind, you're always thinking the worst. Last night was one of the worst nights because I didn't have them in their beds. And I don't want to go through that another night without them.
While the mother said that Jack and Lily would talk in excess to anyone, their aunt said in a post that both children were nonverbal. According to a teacher who had worked with Jack and Lily, they weren't shy, but were minimally verbal. You may have also noticed that Malia said that Jack and Lily had been playing outside that morning, but they didn't realize it at the time. But the thing is, how would she have known that if neither her or Daniel heard the sliding back door open? How did she know they didn't go out that door and then immediately leave the yard? Speaking of the yard, once aerial shots of the home were obtained, people began noticing that the entire backyard was fenced in, leading many to wonder how it was possible that the children could have slipped out to begin with. Not that it's the most sturdy fence, and it appears to possibly have gaps in it at some points. You'll notice in these photos that there is a trailer on the property near the home's backyard, where Daniel's mother and brother are said to live. This trailer is also very close to the door where the children were said to have walked out of. So if Daniel's mother and or brother were home that morning, they also heard and saw nothing. Now, according to Jack and Lily's mother, Malia, she had been in and out of sleep that morning while she was in her bedroom. And Daniel, who had previously said that he and Malia were feeding their daughter in the other room, was now saying that he had asked Jack and Lily to be quiet several times so the baby could continue sleeping. So was she sleeping or eating? Because she's 16 months old, so she's not just a little infant who has a bottle and then goes back to sleep. The other thing that doesn't make much sense to me is if the children were not allowed to go outside unsupervised at any point like their mother claimed, I kind of find it hard to fathom that these two children would decide within 20 minutes to wander outside by themselves past their own backyard when they had never been allowed to do that before. I know that they're potentially autistic and that might make it a little different, but the time period is what really gets me too. It was only 20 minutes. How far could they possibly have gone in that little amount of time? The children's stepfather, like their mother, also made it a point during an interview to say just how chatty and friendly the children were and how they would go with anyone, contrary to what others were saying about them being relatively nonverbal.
Lily and Jack are awesome kids, very, very kind. They'll talk to anyone. They want to go with anyone. They're just looking to have as much fun as they can.
In the same interview, Daniel spoke about the children. And let me know what you think, but to me, it sounds like he might be using the past tense a few times.
Jack just absolutely loves bugs, dinosaurs, and anything like that. But Lily loves girly things, but she also loves doing everything with Jack, bugs. They're like best friends, not just brother and sister.
He might be saying loves, but it sounded like it also could have been loved. Many people have pointed out that during this interview, as well as others, Daniel has a large scratch on his face. But to be fair, he did run through the woods looking for the kids after they went missing, he said. So that could have just been from a branch.
You said they're flying in someone to do a polygraph test. Is that on you?
That's not just on me, but on everyone. That's what I asked for. I asked for that so early on, and there's not many places that do it in Canada, so they're flying somebody in.
Why do you think you need to do that? Do you think they don't believe you?
I think their side of the family doesn't believe me, and I just want to clear it up for everyone. Clear it up for everyone, not just the people online making crazy accusations and everything else.
Then a few days after Jack and Lily disappeared, their mother, Malia, would suddenly move out of the house and go stay with a relative somewhere else in the province. And it was later confirmed by her own mother that she and Daniel had in fact broken up. Daniel would say that Malia had blocked him on social media following this, but she actually just deactivated her Facebook profile. The reason why Malia was said to have left was because her family was blaming Daniel for the children going missing. This had resulted in an argument with multiple family members, and during this time, Daniel's mother, who also lives on the property, had asked Malia to leave. So she had taken their 16-month-old daughter and went to stay with her mother. Making things seem even odder was the fact that Daniel, who had previously stated that the children didn't go to school on Thursday or Friday, was now saying that they hadn't gone to school all week, though a bus driver and a teacher would confirm that they had seen Lily in school on Monday. Then, about an hour after the search for the children had started, police found a pink blanket, but when they brought it to the stepfather, he said it did not belong to Lily. Even though there were no other children living nearby, Lily's favorite color is pink, and she owns a pink blanket. Now, one lead that hasn't been looked into much that supports a possible abduction theory was a suspicious black vehicle that was spotted not long after the children went missing, less than a mile away from the home. There had been a call to authorities reporting that there was a man driving a black Honda CR-V, and he was seen leaving the Lansdowne Recreation Center, which was permanently closed. This man was described as being in his mid-50s, bald, and had a mustache.
So you're to call via 911 from a Karen Ponacow. Kind of about 5 minutes. She was reporting just driving past a black Honda CR-V, Nova Scotia marker Golf Mike Fox 320, that left the outdoor recreational park close to the residence. It is permanently closed. Complaint is unsure if related, but it felt a bit strange to her. Driver was a white male around 50 years old, bald with a mustache. And it left from 1480 Garlock Road. I can send that down to your MWS if it's easier.
But like I said before, in my opinion, this just doesn't really add up to an abduction. The time period was just way too small. Another theory that's been going around online is that something happened to the children during a party that took place at the home a few nights prior. One individual who claims to live near the home said that they thought it was just a drug house and had no idea any children even lived there. This person also stated that on either Wednesday or Thursday night, there were cars completely filling the driveway and spilling out into the street as well. There were vehicles there until at least 2 o'clock in the morning, like some sort of wild party was going on. This has led many to speculate that maybe Jack and Lily got their hands on some sort of substance that night accidentally. There have also been several mentions as to how Jack and Lily often made a lot of noise, and how the noise in the home would be missed. The two were believed to be autistic, and in one clip from Jack's second birthday, you can see that Lily screams excessively when she gets very excited.
Ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Jack, Lily, stop, honey.
The children's bus driver also said that Lily frequently let out high-pitched squeals and was a bit of a drama queen. He additionally claimed that Jack was very chatty, and if he couldn't get your attention to talk to you, he would take off his boots and throw them, leading many to wonder if maybe the children's behavior just got to be too much for the parents. On Wednesday, May 7th, the search efforts for Jack and Lily were scaled back, and authorities said that at this time, it's highly unlikely they'll be found alive. But police's search and investigation into the children's whereabouts still continues.
I'm still holding out hope. I don't know why they didn't find anything from Jack's pull-up to her backpack or any of her belongings at all. They just haven't found anything.
Now, while the family may have some hope, the police say that after 6 days of often extreme conditions, the children were still in the woods, they wouldn't be alive. So now they said it came down to a question of survivability.
And a number of factors we have to take into consideration, and they would, based upon scientific information that they have, to deem when that time has to come, and that is now. And a lot of those factors come into play would be the age of the missing persons, the weather, how long it's been, what area has been covered. So at that point, they have to make a decision on that.
Now, from the very beginning, they described this disappearance as suspicious. That's standard in missing persons cases like this. Today, we were asking the police, because the Major Crime Unit has been part of this investigation since the weekend, as to whether they could elaborate on that. But they didn't want to answer questions about whether they had detected any criminal activity in connection with this.
When somebody goes missing and we become engaged as any police officer, not just major crime, we will look at all the details and make considerations on the information we have, right? When it comes to a missing person, we have to automatically consider are there people that have different charter implications and things like that? So we will automatically start to consider what evidence is pointing us towards a suspicious in nature. Again, I can't comment more than that, but every missing person case, we would approach it from the same process, a methodical collection and review of information with decisions based on that.
Then, just last night, Friday, May 9th, there looked to be a large police presence at Daniel's residence, and it said that authorities were searching underneath the home, but nothing has been confirmed as of yet. While I hate to blame the parents in this situation, as it is possible that Jack and Lily did just wander away or were maybe abducted, I think it's much more likely that something else happened because things just are not adding up. Hopefully these children are found soon, even though, unfortunately, I agree with authorities. It's likely not going to be alive. And it also worries me that Jack and Lily weren't actually reported until days after they had really disappeared, as they were said to have not been in school since Monday. That could make the odds of finding them even less, but let's remain hopeful for now. What do you think about this case? What happened to Jack and Lily?